What if the most valuable thing AI has ever learned is something nobody's thought to ask about yet? Not a fact, not a formula, not something you could Google. Something that exists only because one model read everything humans have ever written. And somewhere in that process, a pattern formed, a structural truth that no single human has ever seen, because no single human has ever read everything. That pattern sitting there right now, in the weights of these models, waiting. The question is, do we even know how to ask for it? Every day, millions of people open an AI chat window, type a question, get an answer, close the tab. That's the loop. Question, answer, done. And for most things, that's fine. You need a recipe. You need code. Ask, receive, move on. But here's what nobody talks about. When an AI generates an answer, it doesn't just retrieve the answer. It activates everything connected to it. Adjacent concepts, structural relationships, cross-domain patterns that inform the response, but never made it into the words you actually read. You got the answer, but you never got what was sitting right next to it. And in some cases, what was sitting next to it is far more interesting. Here's what I mean. I ran an experiment, and what came back genuinely stopped me cold. I asked Claude a very specific kind of question. Not what is X, not explain why, something harder. What do experienced programmers silently correct for that they've never had to articulate? Because the people they work with already know it too, and therefore it's never been written down anywhere? It's asking for the invisible layer, the stuff that only exists in the gap between people who already know. The answer was genuinely interesting. Knowledge about execution models, naming drift, the silent pricing of technical debt, reading what code does not say, real things, valuable things, almost never written down. But then I did something different. I didn't go deeper, I went sideways. Take those patterns and correlate them to something completely outside of programming. What came back was not an analogy. Every single pattern dissolved. They didn't map across to some other domain. They collapsed into one thing, one underlying structure that all of them had been instances of. The ability to operate simultaneously on the surface layer of a thing and the layer underneath it. The programming examples weren't the point. They were never the point. Just the closest available surface to something much more fundamental. Something that had never been stated directly. Anywhere. In any of the training data. It emerged from the aggregate. It existed nowhere in any single source. That's what I'm after. And there's a method to get there. It works. But it requires you to completely unlearn how you think about asking questions. Don't go deeper. Go sideways. When an answer feels like it's almost the thing, but not quite, don't ask for more detail. Ask the same question from a completely different domain. The thing you're hunting lives in the overlap between domains that have no business overlapping. And there are signals that tell you when you're getting close. Convergence. When answers from unrelated angles start pointing at the same thing without being told to. That's a signal. Construction versus retrieval. There's a different quality to an answer being built under pressure versus one being recalled. When the model's building instead of remembering, you're getting warmer. Resistance. When a question is hard not because it's complex, but because it's pointing at something that doesn't have language yet. That friction isn't a failure, it's a signal. And the fourth, domain wall collapse. When the answer stops being about what you asked and becomes about something more fundamental entirely, that's when you know you found it. So now you have the method. But here's where it gets strange. Because this isn't something you can do alone. There's a ceiling on what any model or any person can surface by themselves. And understanding why is where this gets genuinely interesting. That's part 2. And I think you're going to want to hear it.